Hello again from the studio here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. My studio is located in downtown. It's the second floor. These are north light windows over here, which is ideal. It's a wonderful space to work in, and I enjoy coming here and creating paintings and coming to you to talk about various things. You can see behind me a painting that I started yesterday. It's a 40 by 30 floral still life. I got the block in completed, and today I'm going to work my way through refining it. So I'll be going through the different elements and bringing them closer and closer to where I want them to be, how I want them to look. But my intention there was to simply block them in an abstract form. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today, because I had in my Genius Circle, that is our monthly subscription program, where we have a number of people from all over the world, artists just like you, who want to rise to the level of expressing their personal genius. So we created this amazing program that allows people to find and express their genius individually. And one of the geniuses, I hesitate to call them students because they really are just artists and geniuses in the state of becoming. She was talking about blocking in a particular painting and speaking about the petals in one of the elements of the painting. This is a common situation when somebody steps to the easel and they have a subject in front of them. There is a tendency to look at and identify that subject by name. It's what we do every day as we go about our daily lives. We name things and we use those names as a shorthand, a kind of a shorthand that tells us all we need to know about what this is and how to identify it and what our relationship is to it. And that works every day when we're going about our daily living. But when we step in front of the easel and we look at a subject, regardless of what the subject is, and we say to ourselves the name of what it is that we're painting. For instance, looking at the painting I have in front of me, if I say the vase or the flowers or the leaves or the foliage or the background or the table or any of those things, if I name them, that act of naming literally blocks us from seeing the reality of that element. We don't really truly see it for what it is, and more importantly, we don't see the relationship it has with the other elements in the subject. And that relationship is what we're looking for. Because we have taken a three-dimensional subject and we have translated, or we're in the act of translating it into 2 dimensions, the naming of the subject is not only is it irrelevant, but it is actually detrimental to the process. That falls under the category of what I call the quiet mind. When you're painting, if you enter that zone, that state of being where your mind is quiet and it's not naming things and it's not making judgments. Now, by judgments, I don't mean assessments, I mean judgments, critical judgments about the rightness or wrongness of something. If that's out of the way, and we are simply in what I like to call the abstract zone or the abstract universe, then we are able to see clearly these big, simple relationships. And those big, simple relationships primarily consist of value relationships, primarily. Color, of course, is a factor. Temperature is a factor. The transitions between the relationships, of course, is important. Edges, we call them. But at the fundamental place that we're talking about, when we're looking at a subject and we want to translate it into a two-dimensional rendering on a surface like a canvas or a panel or whatever, we really have to at least get to the value relationships. Those are our primary relationships. And then on top of those value relationships, if we can accurately assess those and render them to some degree, like with a block-in, then we're able to build on that and create the other nuanced aspects of those relationships that include the color and the temperature and the various shifting that goes on within each shape or family of values until we have what we're looking for. And all the while, the entire process is never a time when we actually start painting a thing. We literally cannot paint things. It's not possible. Things exist in three-dimensional reality, three-dimensional space. We're not using three dimensions. We're only using two. Now I understand there is truly some physical depth there, but it's microscopic. It's infinitesimal. The thickness of the paint, even if you use a thick impasto, is still a fraction of what three-dimensional reality holds. In three-dimensional reality, you can actually reach around behind your subject and your hand would disappear behind it. Here's my hand. Here, I can reach around behind it. My hand disappears to my vision, right? Well, we can't do that here. That's impossible. And so it never serves us to call this anything, to say, this is a flower, this is a petal, these are leaves, this is a vase, this is a tabletop. That's not helpful. In fact, it's not just not helpful, it's more information. It's the wrong kind of information. It's not helpful, it's not relevant. Now, this takes practice. You're not going to be able to step in front of a canvas today, having never done this before, and suddenly have the quiet mind that doesn't name your subject, doesn't name the elements of the subject, doesn't even name the colors on your palette. When you start to name colors, you do the same thing. If you say that's red or that's blue or that's green or purple or pink or whatever, you revert to this kind of shorthand that you learned a long time ago when you were a child, what these colors look like. And so your brain is literally hardwired with these little shortcut versions of things. And so when you activate those circuits in your brain, they tend to block your vision, your true vision, your vision that truly sees what's out in front of you. And it keeps you from entering this abstract, quiet zone where things that you're looking at are no longer things. They're arrangement of abstract shapes. That's what they are. And so that's why something like this block-in, is really an arrangement of abstract shapes, but even now, as abstracted as it is, your mind and your relationship between your eyes and your mind interpret it into a three-dimensional image. And it sees, or tells you that it sees, a vase with water and some flowers, maybe not fully identified at this point, but some flowers sitting in a vase with some leaves and sitting on a table, and there's some shadows that are being cast, and there's something kind of unidentified in the background there, maybe a curtain or something like that. And there's light coming from a window. Sure, you've got plenty of experience to construct from these abstract shapes a three-dimensional image that you can identify. I mean, that really is the secret to realistic painting, and really good realistic painting. You as the artist look at a subject, you deconstruct it into an arrangement of shapes. Your viewer then looks at that arrangement of shapes, and especially when the viewer is at a slight or maybe even greater distance from your canvas, their minds and their experience will reconstruct it into a three-dimensional image. And that's the process. So you as the artist train yourself into entering into this abstract zone where you can then objectively see these abstract shapes, and you don't try to name them or judge them and critically in any way, and you don't criticize yourself for putting down paint that isn't fully realized, the image isn't fully realized. And then you go walk yourself through the process of taking it step by step, more abstract shapes, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit more nuanced here and there, until voila, it becomes the image that you imagined in the beginning, just like we talked about yesterday, and there you have it. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. The idea of the quiet mind, the idea of no longer naming either things or parts of things or colors or any of that stuff, and entering into the abstract zone where everything becomes two-dimensional abstract shapes, and they are comprised primarily of value with color and temperature and transitions as factors. Okay, there you go. That's it. Well, I'll probably see you tomorrow. Take care.